Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. Ooh, I'm so excited. We're back with Yona of the Dawn, episode 3, The Distant Sky. So, old Hawk has taken old Yona away and gotten her out of there, safe from old Suwon, and poor Minsu died. A tear, R.I.P. Minsu, getting arrowed so badly in the last episode. And so the king is dead and Suwon seems to have taken over. I still maintain that something's up, right? Something's up with Suwon, and I get Suwon wanting revenge on his father's death, but there's an unreliable narrator somewhere in the picture, and Suwon doesn't seem... He says he's going to be the new king, but here's the thing. When Suwon and Hawk were talking in the last episode, Suwon made it clear that he did want to kill the king. He wanted to kill King Il, but as far as him usurping the throne and taking control, all he said was that the kingdom deserved someone who wasn't a weak king. But he didn't really assert himself being like, I'm gonna be the king that's gonna make everything right. He didn't really do that big spiel like sometimes you see characters that take the throne do. So something leads me to believe that there's something else going on. Like he's being influenced in a certain direction through something. And I'm sure he did want to take revenge, but I don't know if he wanted it to go to the extremes that it did. I'm not sure. Suwon's character is very interesting and we don't know everything about him yet. So that's fascinating. But old Hawk meeting them husbando goals, just taking on Yona. I'm like, Yona, girl, I get back in the day, it was okay to marry your cousins, apparently, but let's be real. So I am excited to get into... I know he said he's from the Wind Clan and all of this. My question is, are they... Don't answer this for me. Don't spoil me. I don't want to... I'm like, do they literally turn into dragons? Or is it like a metaphorical, like he has like those wind powers and stuff, and it's like the force of a dragon, but he doesn't actually become a dragon. I don't know which one it is. I want him to actually become a dragon. I want to see Yona Spirited Away style riding on Dragon Hawk, like to go take back the kingdom. I want that. And I don't know if that's going to happen. But the one guy with the white hair has like a dragon claw, so I don't know. But either way... either way, I'm really excited because I like this show so far. It's been a while since I've watched a shoujo, and it's a fantasy, and it's just fun and humorous, and the action is really good. Like there's all this blood and gore, and I'm like, yes, please. And Hawk is just perfect, and Yona is blind. So what can we do? But yeah, I'm really excited, y'all. I can't wait to dive into this and talk about this series, but let's not waste any more time, shall we? Let us see what happens. They're clearly heading somewhere. Suwon thinks they're heading back to Hawk's hometown, and I don't know if that's the case or not. That seems like the obvious place to go, and so I don't know if you'd really... Hawk's a general, you would think he'd be like, let's not go to the most obvious place, but they established in the last episode that his hometown isn't easy to get to, so maybe that's the only choice they really have. Like, to be safe, that's the best option they have to go to, so we'll see. But in any case, let's start this, shall we? We are going to start episode 3 of Yona of the Dawn here in 5, 4, and 3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh, y'all. Oh, y'all. Hawk. Ah. I cannot. He's too perfect. He's too perfect. It's done. Every male anime character, you have to live up to this expectation that you'll be as good as Hawk. I'm sorry, but it's a fact of life. Oh, this episode was really good. Man, really good. I feel like this was establishing all of the shoujo tropes, but making them like the best shoujo tropes. I love it. So getting the background on Hawk, Suwon, and Yona, and it took me until this episode. I can't believe it took me 3 episodes to realize their color palette schemes are the primary colors. Suwon is yellow with his golden hair. Yona has the red hair, and Hawk has the blue hair. It's red, blue, and yellow, the primary colors. And throughout much of this episode, you have your secondary colors. Orange isn't present, but you've got your greens and purples. But oh my gosh. I'm so curious now about Suwon more than ever, because they established just how good of friends they were throughout this entire series. Throughout their entire childhood, they've established what great friends they were. And I'm glad we get to see the brother. I'm glad we get to see Yu Hong because I want to talk about him. He's a little bit different in this episode already than how Soo-won kind of projected him in the last one. Already a little bit different. So I think that's interesting. But Hawk, oh my God, Hawk is just, he's too perfect. I'm like, Yona, girl, the man not only fishes for you and cooks for you and carries you through a snake den and gets bit by a rattlesnake or it wasn't rattlesnake, but get bit by snakes, but he also picked leeches off your body and he was very strong-willed. I was like, oh dude, you're really taking this really well, this naked woman in front of you, not getting distracted. And then he figured out and he was like, oh, I gotta go. Like, the man is husbando goals. I just, oh my gosh, like, slay me. And I love that originally he didn't want to be her bodyguard, and it was because he's loved her from like the start. And it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, not as little kids, but since he was like a teenager, he's loved her, and he's been jealous of Soo-won because the girl, bless her heart, Yona, and they do establish, the grandpa establishes here that the bonds of love are stronger than blood. And I was like, is that this show subtly trying to say that the incest thing's okay? I was like, okay, show, you're really getting in that. But I like the idea that Hawk has always been kind of jealous of Soo-won, but not jealous in like a toxic way. He's just like, it's frustrating for him because he clearly loves Yona. Clearly he loves her, but he's like, I can't be with her because she loves Soo-won. And so there's that little tiny hint of jealousy, but it doesn't affect him from doing his job, protecting her. And he's like, well, if I can do this much, if I can just be here and protect you, it'll be okay. And I'm like, girl, I just want you to realize that Hawk truly loves you and like, give him a chance. I would. I'd be like, that guy killed my dad and tried to kill me. Screw him. So, but yeah, the idea that Hawk has had this unwavering loyalty since an early age. And so I'm watching the OP again. I guess in the OP, we also got that the fire general guy again. So is he going to come back up in this? I'm thinking so. Because he's with Soo-won's men. Interesting. We got that damn hairpin. So then, yeah, there's 4 of these generals. And they're all surrounding, it looks like Snow White, like the queen. And then there's Hawk. So I'm very curious. Interesting. But yeah, I like that these couple of episodes have slowly set up the relationships between Soo-won and Hawk and Yona to establish just how powerful their bonds were and just how critical this breakage between them is. Because Yona has just basically let herself fall apart. Like, she's mentally exhausted, she's emotionally traumatized, and she physically isn't eating or drinking hardly at all. So of course she's getting weaker and weaker. And Hawk tries to get her to do things, but he can't make her. And so it makes sense why she's like that, because she basically just had her world shattered. Her father's been killed in front of her, and it's by the person that she thought she was romantically interested in. So it's like, of course she would feel. And Hawk getting all the points. Like, I was like, if Hawk wasn't a good person, he would have thrown that pin in the fire and not given it back to her. But he even was offering it to her. Like, he was trying to hand it to her when she ran off to the snakes. I was like, girl, he was trying to even give it to you. But, so we established with the Wind Tribe here that there is the general, Moondok, that is Hawk's adoptive grandfather. So we established that. So I'm guessing, are there all different element tribes? Do we have a water tribe? Do we have a wind tribe? Do we have a fire tribe? Do we have an earth tribe? Is it like, are these all the different elements? So I'm curious if one of those dragons is a fire dragon, or if that one guy that's the general's son is a fire dragon, and we're going to have to come back with him. That would be interesting. So the king setting something up here. So interestingly enough, Il sets up that he isn't a coward. He's not a coward, because he grabbed that sword that the fire general's son had. He grabbed it by the blade like it was nothing, and then just walked off with his hand bleeding behind him. And Hawks makes the comment, he's like, this king is no coward, kind of earning his respect. So that ties back to the fact that if he's just willing to just grab a sword and a blade like it's nothing, and then walk it off like it's nothing, so maybe, yeah, it could be plausible that Yu Hong fought him. Could be plausible. But I think there's more to it than that. I don't think that Il just killed him for no reason. There's no way. But we're going to talk about that here in a minute. So yeah, so the king basically wanting Hawk to become Yona's bodyguard, and Hawk establishing that he is all aboard the Yona train. He is like, I love her. He doesn't say I love her except when they're doing the joke, but he's like, when I'm around her, I go crazy. And it's like, yeah, you love her, basically. But he doesn't do... Hawk is like the perfect gentleman. He doesn't do anything or act upon it because he knows she likes Suwon, and he wanted them to be together because that's what she wanted. I'm like, this man is perfect. I don't know what the issues are. But yeah, there's that really cool symbolism of her, and it's a miscommunication because she thinks that he was frustrated because she was, wasn't taking care of herself. He was frustrated because he was jealous. And so she brings him all the fruit, and then him biting the apple is like a cool maybe symbolism of like the Garden of Eden. Like he, she like is in his brain and he can't get away from her now. And then that one general guy, the fire general's son, like being like totally not cool, like no. And Hawk establishes he doesn't want to be nobility or royalty, which could also explain why he doesn't like pursue the whole becoming her husband thing, because that'd make him the king, and he clearly doesn't seem to want to do that. He just wants to be a bodyguard. It's like, but this could be like Aladdin. She could change the rules. She could be the queen and you could just be her hot bodyguard that's married to her. I mean, she could be the political dignitary and you could just be the hot bodyguard husband. I don't see a problem in that. Laws are meant to be changed. So, but yeah, this guy, the fire general's son, we get thing. Hawk's like, oh, he's courting you, and she thinks that he is. And he clearly seemed like he was. And Hawk finds that funny. I like the Hawk's like, haha. So Kang, Taejun. So yeah, Taejun acting super creepy. He seems like an OP as a bad guy. And I like that when Hawk isn't going to do anything. He's going to be passive. But when it comes to Yona, he can't be passive because he loves her. And so he steps in. And I like that he kind of gets her. This whole episode had a very Aladdin vibe to it, especially when he was like trying to convince her to like go along with it and them saying that they love each other. And when she says that I love you, that's what gets him blushing, because that's what he wants to hear. And it's like, show, you're just gonna toy with our hearts. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? And yeah, him saying that he can't stay there because it's gonna drive him crazy that she doesn't love him the same way back. I just want her to forget about Suwon. It's not that I don't like Suwon. I'm super fascinated by his character, but I'm like, girl, just Hawk's so good. He's so perfect for you. You guys have such banter and everything. Come on. And then, yeah, I love it. And then I love the king sees. And then Hawk's like, we pledged our futures together, right? And she's like, huh? And then I like and they're still like preteens, so there's kind of an innocence to it. But then now they're adults. And, she's 16 and he's, I think, a little bit older, maybe. Because that was 3 years ago and he looks like he's probably 16. And yeah, he just loves her. But yeah. And I love that Hawk is like, I'm not going to forgive you, Suwon, for letting her be like this. Like, he's like, how dare you? He's like, you know how much she cared about you. You know how strong our bonds were. And so how dare you leave her like this because you knew what it was going to do. And it's like, and there's a part of me that's like, I want to know if Suwon realizes that. Surely he knows how terrible she's taking this. He did let them go, which is interesting. He let them escape and he let them go. So again, it seems like he has an ulterior motive, but he also seems like, I'm so curious about his motivations. I'm so curious because we see him as a kid and he's so friendly and like seems to like Yona and Hawk both. But then, and he doesn't seem, antagonistic towards Il, but then his dad's still alive at this point. I'm curious why the king didn't originally go see her unless he was dealing with stuff as the king, like Hawk said, and just didn't have time to go there. But it still seems weird that he didn't show up. It still seems odd. And then he made it up for her with the porridge, which was really sweet. I like that she doesn't say it tastes good, even though it doesn't. She's like, it tastes terrible, but she eats it anyway. So there's that, which is cool. But so curious. So curious. And of course she gets the fever, and then all of them have the fever. And then, so here's the thing. Yu Hong shows up. We get establishment that Hawk is an orphan. He's a little orphan baby. And Moondog took him in. So, okay. Fair enough. But then Yu Hong shows up, which is interesting. Yeah, and Yu Hong, his eyes look kind of like Suwon's color. That's like the only thing they have in common. They look nothing alike, which is hilarious. And then of course he like shows up and he's like, "What's wrong with seeing my kid?" And I like that Suwon's kind of like, "Oh, well, you didn't have to come see me." Like he's all shy about it. And he's like, "Do you think your illness could defeat me?" Like he's so intimidating. Yeah, and I like that Yona's like, "Oh, Yu Hong's really strong and strict." And they all seem scared of him. And he's like, "You must beat down this illness quickly." I love that. He's like, "You must beat this illness." It's like, can you? They're kids. And even Hawk's like, "Oh my god, he's intense." But Suwon doesn't seem bothered by it. He seems like he's totally chill about his dad being the most intimidating presence in the room. And saying it's a happy day. Which is kind of weird. And Hawk kind of looks at him weird too. So that may be the first instance of Suwon showing a little bit of his persona of putting on an act. Because like his dad was pretty weird there. Like he's like, "Well, beat your illness." And then he was kind of like harsh a little bit. Even though there's no, it was weird. Because his tone was very strict and stern. But I mean, he came to see his son and cheer his son up. And Suwon was acting like he just gave him a big old thing of cotton candy. And Hawk just kind of looks at him like, "This guy was really intense and intimidating and you're acting like it's nothing." So, interesting. Interesting indeed. And then I like that Suwon wanted them all to hold hands and be together. And then Hawk's like, "Well, we can still stay together. There's nothing wrong with that." And then her having the nightmare. And then, yeah, Hawk makes the comment after he fishes for her and cooks her fish. He makes the comment that's going to be harder to find food from here on in, so you probably need to eat something. And then, yeah, she's just totally dazed and out of it. Yeah. I love that he knows that she's having trouble facing reality, and he's like, "This is going to get harder the longer we go." He's like, she needs to own up to it, but that's not easy, right? So he just he's letting her work through it. But I'm sorry. I was wondering how the whole bathing thing were going. Y'all, he just while she's taking a bath, he just sits there with his back to her, letting her have her space and her privacy, but watching over to make sure she's not hurt and watching her clothes. It's too damn perfect. And then, yeah. And then she calls out and says that she has the leeches on her, which, gross. Leeches are disgusting. I would be like, nope. And he picks them off of her. And they'll suck your blood. But they won't kill you. And then he's like, he sees her and he's like, "Oh God, wait, you are naked. Here's your clothing. Okay, bye." And he's like, "Will the princess stay like this forever? It's going to be hard." Yeah, she doesn't eat. She only walks around as I pull along by hand. She's like a doll. And I love that, "Are you satisfied, Suwon?" He's like, "You destroyed the days we spent together and the princess you treasured." Yeah. And I love him getting mad. "Does that satisfy you?" And he has like the dimples. I'm like, ah. And that's when he sees the hairpin and all of that. But I'm pretty sure that she's like in denial about everything. She's looking for the hairpin. But she's like, she keeps telling herself she doesn't need it. And then, yeah, he's literally standing in front of her, holding the hairpin out on his knees to give it to her. And she's so distracted by the fact that she doesn't even notice that he has it. Oh my gosh. And when he said, "I love your hair, Yona," and I thought she was going to grab Hawk's blade. I thought she was going to grab the blade and cut the hair off. I thought that's what she's going to do. And maybe she ends up doing that. Maybe we go back to this. And when she's like, "Screw you, Suwon, I don't need you," maybe that's when she chops her hair off. I want it to be all Mulan style and just hack it. Like, that's what I thought was going to happen in this. But we don't get that yet. And then she goes and finds the snake den. And dude, Hawk lifts her up, carries her, gets bit by snakes. And he's just like, "Bring it on." I'm like, Slay me now. He's like, keep your mouth shut and hang on, princess. Think of me as a tool. Use me so that you can live. Oh my God. That's what I'm here for. But he loves you. And he's like bandaging up his leg. And then he gives her the hairpin back. Because Hawk is selfless like that. Even though he loves her, even though he's jealous of Suwon. And I'm glad he told her, he's like, I can't forgive Suwon. But more than that, I want you to live. So he's like, I'm this man that I've been jealous of since we were teens, that loves you. He's like, I hate him, but you know what? I want you to live. And if this hairpin, because he makes that comment too, he was like, to find that, you made a move for the first time since we entered these mountains. If it can keep you alive, I don't care what it is. Oh! Even if it's a feeling you still can't throw away. Dang! Oh my gosh. So that's just like how selfless he is. He's like, even though he knows that she likes Suwon, he's jealous of the fact, he still is like, if this is the one thing that makes you happy and keeps you alive, I want you to keep going after it. This show's such a tease because he's so perfect for her and she's so blind. Ugh. Yeah. So the one thing that this episode ends on is asking the question that people are like, oh, you're allowing them to live. And he's like, well, they left the castle. They can't do anything. It's just the two of them. Besides, there's something we must do immediately. And we don't know what that is. Interesting. I'm very curious. I've not minded this setup being a little slower than normal in a show. Because usually, in a show, it's like we introduce you to all these characters at once. And they kind of did. They kind of gave us the prologue where they were like, oh yeah, here's where our characters are starting out. Here's all of our dragons together. But we're not ready for that yet. We got to set some things up. So what I do like that this show is doing is it's slowly setting up a couple of things. It's setting up the bonds that Suwon, Yona, and Hawk all had together when they were kids, from the time they were kids to now. So it's been a long forged bond that's now split them apart. 2, establishing that Hawk is not only the perfect human being, but also that he loves Yona. He actually does love her, and he will do anything to protect her. And setting up 3, that the king is not weak, that something is amiss. Something is amiss in all of this that isn't quite adding up, and I don't know what it is yet. But there's something strange going on with Suwon. There's something strange going on with the king from the past and with Yu Hong. Something that Yona is not privy to or Hawk is privy to is happening. And I'm so curious what it is, but I don't know. And I'm kind of like, how did Suwon sneak in there to kill him with a damn sword that big? Did he just show up and be like, oh, hey, uncle, I want you to check out the sword. Yoink. Or, I mean, did the king know he was going to get killed? What's going on? I don't know. So, I'm really curious about that still. But I'm glad that we got all this set up and establishment of Hawk being a perfect human being in this episode. Because I love their dynamic and I love the humor and it's so cute. I'm assuming maybe the grandpa's dead at this point. I don't know. Maybe the grandpa is still alive. That'll be interesting if we go that way. But I'm so curious to see where we go to from here. Because we really didn't... I'm not watching the preview, so we really didn't get an idea of what's happening after this. But, oh, y'all. This show, it's so good. And I'm so curious where we're going to. Because we pretty much got Yona at her lowest point. And Hawk's given her some hope with the pin. And now it's like, okay, what do we do from here? So, I'm so curious to know your thoughts down below. This episode was really good, but I'm curious to know what you guys thought as well. Please, no spoilers, but I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 4 of Yona of the Dawn. Bye.